This is Monty in the Morning, the show Phoenix Magazine readers voted #1 talk radio show in Arizona.
#1 during your morning commute.
#1 whenever news breaks during your day.
And #1 whenever and wherever you want to talk sports.
Now it's time for Monty in the Morning.
Hey, yo, man. How the heck are you? It is the Monty Show. Happy Wednesday already. Do you like short work weeks or not?
Yeah, when I have Friday off, not Monday off.
I'd rather have Friday than Monday off, but can't do that because we got to talk Utah Jazz basketball. Jake was up all night. His right forearm is worn out.
Yes. After
Chet Holmgren put on a show at the Utah Jazz Summer League. We'll talk about Chet and the Summer League. What is Danny Ainge doing? What does Danny Ainge have left to do? And is he going to buy out Pat Bev? We got to talk about that. Huge Pac-12 news for you. Should Utah and BYU play football and basketball every single season? Got to talk about that. Tufts University says you're fat. Hey, Chubbs. And one of the main questions we have to ask today, and I think it's a really important question, is how influential are guys like us, podcast hosts, radio hosts, guys like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan said something yesterday in an interview that I think is really, really important. Really, really important. We're going to play that from Joe. And we want to have a real conversation about how influential podcasts and radio shows are in your life. But without further ado, let's talk about the Utah Jazz, because one of the interesting things that's come up over the last few days, and really it's been over the last few weeks, is the anxiety level and the level of fear that we are seeing from Utah Jazz fans, whether it is that the Jazz are not doing enough, whether it is that the Jazz are doing, the wrong kinds of things. Anxiety levels are high, Jake, and I don't know, is it founded or warranted to be concerned about what the Utah Jazz are doing?
No, I mean, I don't think it's founded or warranted, but I do think it's what naturally happens because you're in a place where you've never been as a Utah Jazz fan. You have someone operating in your front office who clearly knows what he's doing and is unemotional about the players that he's moved out and the players that he's brought in very clearly. And I think that, what has Jazz fans, sort of in an anxious place is that nothing is happening with the Kevin Durant situation or the DeAndre Ayton rumored trade or really anything at this point. And Summer League's getting going. And what I would say is that it's good news that Summer League is getting going because a lot of deals and a lot of conversations are going to happen during Summer League. And I think that you will see progress made, but you have to understand that this is a process and takes time. So I don't think that the anxiety and the worries are warranted, but I do understand why as a Utah Jazz fan, you may feel that way because you're just unsure. You're wondering, well, why is there lack of action? Why are we just sitting here? Why does it feel like we're dragging our feet? I totally get it. But at the same time, you have to understand that the Brooklyn Nets ultimately are in control right now of what the Utah Jazz are doing in the sense that Danny Ainge is not going to go and make a bunch of deals while he's trying to make something happen that is, somewhat connected to the Kevin Durant situation. So that's why I say it's just timing. It's just something that has to play out. So I would tell Utah Jazz fans that they need to, relax a little bit here and sort of just enjoy the offseason. But I think that when you're a Utah Jazz fan, patience is not something that you're really good at. You want to know, what's our team going to be? Are we rebuilding or are we retooling? And once again, I would tell you, you're retooling. And I think Danny Ainge is guiding the Utah Jazz in the correct direction. I'm someone who believes that Danny Ainge has done a great job this offseason. And I think that, again, you're just in the middle of the process. And that's pretty much where I think the Jazz are at right now.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that at all. Shout out to Cody Strickland, a $2 tip this morning to start us off. Appreciate you very much, Cody. He says $2 shout out to the best sports show. Appreciate that. Again, I want to mention a drinking and cigar journey with Eric Leatham, who sends us 99 cents in a super sticker. Appreciate you, bud. Good morning to everybody on the program this morning as we talk Utah Jazz basketball. And one of the things I think is very interesting And one of the things I think is really important is that you have a guy in Danny Ainge who's here for a very specific reason. There is no question in my mind that Danny Ainge is here to do exactly what he's doing. I would tell you to take it easy. We are far from done as far as Utah Jazz moves go. Whether that is DeAndre Ayton, whether that is another center, the single biggest need, I think, remaining for the Utah Jazz is to upgrade their front court. They've got to put size back onto this roster. Obviously, the two guys who played the predominant amount of minutes at center, Rudy Gobert and Hassan Whiteside, are both no longer on the roster.
Right.
You have a guy in Rudy Gay who I'm not convinced the Utah Jazz want him on the roster after all the issues they had with him last year. And your other depth guys in the front court essentially aren't here anymore. Eric Paschall, Juancho Hernan-Gomez, those guys are gone now. So you have got to upgrade size. You have got to get probably at least two centers, at least two guys who can play 4, who can play 5. You have a lot more work to do, and I am convinced that Danny Ainge is the right guy to do that. So when we talk about anxiety levels and we talk about what the Jazz are trying to do, the Jazz are in the marketplace. The Jazz are very busy. I was told yesterday by one of my NBA sources that the Phoenix Suns are the busiest team in the NBA right now. Right behind them, the Utah Jazz, trying to get deals done to improve this roster. And I don't think there's any doubt that the next 10 days are going to go a long way to determining what this next season looks like. Because don't forget, tomorrow we tip off NBA Summer League in Las Vegas. So you're going to see that a lot of business gets done in Las Vegas, and that's because it's the Mecca. It is the biggest event of the offseason, the Las Vegas Summer League. Every year that we go to the Summer League, we have important conversations in corridors, in elevators, in hallways, in a buffet line. Business gets done in Las Vegas every single summer. Is that where Sean Marks is going to go to make a Kevin Durant trade? I think there's a real good chance that you're going to see Sean Marks and a guy like a Rob Pelinka, the general manager of the LA Lakers, talking, sitting, meeting, conversing about Kyrie Irving. Hey, Sean, what's your level of interest in Russell Westbrook? Hey, what about if we did, sitting together, actually hammering out agreements? That happens at NBA Summer Leagues. And I can tell you more than once, I've walked through the corridor in the tunnel between the two arenas in Las Vegas, and there are guys in doorways. There are guys in elevators, and there are guys in where the buses pull in, standing off to the side, leaning on a pillar, sipping a bottle of water, having a really important conversation. You're going to see that happen in Las Vegas, and I do think that's where the hammering out of the Kevin Durant trade is going to happen, in my opinion, because I think too much time has passed, and there are too many offers. And right now, I think Sean Marks has to really, cut out all of the noise and get to a place where he can make a deal. And Jake, I have no doubt that that's going to be in Las Vegas, and I have no doubt that the biggest needs for the Utah Jazz are in the front court.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the Brooklyn Nets, once again, it needs to be said, are just in this position where they can't mess this up. If you're Sean Marks and the Brooklyn Nets, you can't afford to miss on this. You got to get the most you can get in return on this deal. And that, again, to get back to the point of what is Danny Ainge doing right now, that process for the Brooklyn Nets is what has kind of slowed down, Danny Ainge in making moves and doing things. Because, again, timing's everything. You don't want to make a deal. If you're Danny Ainge, you don't want to make a deal and then have the Kevin Durant trade go down and then be in a bad spot. You're never going to put yourself in that position. What you're going to do instead is you're going to go to Summer League. You're going to have a bunch of conversations. You're going to solidify your position within the trade as best you can. And then Sean Marks is simply going to make a decision. And that decision will cause waves around the league, good or bad, depending on who you are. And then you're just going to have to deal with it. So that's why I say, as a Utah Jazz fan, you just have to hold your water a bit here. You just have to wait and see what happens, because that's ultimately where the entire league is at. Again, it needs to be said, when's the last time a Kevin Durant level player got traded? I can tell you, it's when LeBron was on ESPN deciding where he was going to go. Now, that was free agency, obviously, not a trade, but I'm just saying, that's the last time a guy of this caliber moved around the league. So I just think these things take time, and you have to be patient with it.
Yeah, and I also think when you look at what Danny Ainge has to get done in Las Vegas for the Utah Jazz, I don't think there's any doubt it's front court, and I would love to see your thoughts in the comments. What do you think the single biggest need for the Utah Jazz is? I think when you look at power forward and the prominence of that 3-4 combo position, I think when you look at what's on this roster now, obviously you acquired Jared Vanderbilt. I don't think there's any doubt that he's a guy that you would think is going to get some minutes. But you also have Bojan Bogdanovic, but I much more place Bojan Bogdanovic right now in that 3 spot than I do a 3, a 4-5. He's certainly not a 5. Bojan Bogdanovic at this point in his career, in my opinion, is a catch-and-shoot 3. That's how I look at Bojan. That's how I value him. He is not particularly good at defending the wing. And in today's NBA, you have power forwards that are built very differently. You have a guy, and look at the show that Chet Holmgren put on last night. Mm-hmm. That's a guy that is probably going to be a 4-5 combo guy. Can Bojan Bogdanovic stay with a Chet Holmgren? Can he stay with a Zion Williamson? When you look at what is going on around this league, you're going to run into 4-5 guys like what's the right way to say it? Not even a hybrid. Hybrid's the word I want to keep using.
I always call them combo guys, like guys that can play different positions but also have elite size and can do a lot of different things.
But look at Jokic in Denver.
Yeah.
If you look at Jokic in Denver, that's a guy who is a center, but he plays the 3-4-5 combo.
Yes.
Is Bojan Bogdanovic a guy you want guarding Nikola Jokic? Probably not.
No.
I don't think so. I look at the way that this league is going, and that's why I think you have to upgrade the power forward. To me, that is where I would start. I really would love to see an athletic power forward come into the fold here.
Right.
This is also why I say again, I think you if you look at the way things worked out here, I think Danny Ainge won the Rudy Gobert trade. And I know this has been a significant topic of conversation, and ESPN graded Danny Ainge an A and graded the Minnesota Timberwolves a D on that trade. And I think largely the D for the Minnesota Timberwolves, they're taking that D.
Yeah.
I think the D. I'm a child. I would. Yeah, I agree. I'm a child. But I think the D for Minnesota is because you're now committing $463 million to Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert.
Wow.
In a league that is structured to have a guy like Karl Anthony Towns be a power forward, not a center.
Right.
It's a league where you have a guy like Anthony Street Close Davis as a 4, not a 5. Anybody notice that the Lakers yesterday signed Thomas Bryant and assured him that he will likely be their starting center because Anthony Davis is going to play the 4, not the 5. So when you look at what the Jazz have and whether or not they won this deal, I don't think there's any doubt they won the trade with the Minnesota Timberwolves. But they won it because they got younger and more athletic at Jared Vanderbilt on the wing. But I still think you have to add a significant power forward, and I think you need to add 2 centers.
Yeah.
Because I don't look at a guy in Jared Vanderbilt who's capable, A, of starting at the 5. I don't think that's his where he currently is. He could absolutely be there. There's no doubt about that. But I think Vanderbilt is much more of a 4-5 combo guy, so you don't have a true center. And whether he plays 10 minutes or 35 minutes, you need a JaVale McGee type player who can be a true number 5, block shots, rebound the ball, and run the floor. And the Utah Jazz currently don't have that on their roster.
Yeah.
But I don't think, and I don't know what you think about this, I don't think there's any doubt the Jazz won the Minnesota trade.
Yeah, I think they absolutely won the Minnesota trade, and I think, one thing that doesn't get talked about when we're talking about who wins trades and what the Utah Jazz need and everything is development of the guys you already have. Because ultimately, if you think about it, he's exactly right. The Utah Jazz do need to go and get some bigs. That's why the DeAndre Ayton angle is such a hot thing right now. Because if they could go and get Ayton, that would obviously change their fortunes right now. That would be a big deal. But if you think about it, going and getting 2 bigs is going to require you to use assets. And I think what doesn't get talked about is the fact that you need guys like Jared Butler to be good this year. You need him to come off the bench right behind Donovan and not lose, not have the game feel completely different when Don's not on the floor, Like you need the guys you have now to develop. to contribute and to be serviceable for you. Because if you can do that, you just put yourself in a much better position. And I also think that one of the things one of the weights that Donovan Mitchell has to carry on this roster with where it is last season and now currently is that there isn't much behind him. What really was behind Donovan Mitchell? If you really think about it, are we going to sit here and say that Jordan Clarkson was behind Donovan Mitchell? Jordan Clarkson was behind everybody. He had one purpose on this team. But there is not like a grade A bona fide guy coming off the bench to stead Donovan Mitchell so he can get a breather. So that's why I say, yes, you need bigs, but you also got to develop the talent you have now.
Well, and Donovan Mitchell has just tweeted, and I've already gotten it sent to me 3 times. He said, build you up to tear you down.
Oh, God, here we go.
And people are like, Monty, what does this mean?
Whoa, he's going to the Knicks.
Hey, man, what does this mean?
Whoa.
What's going on here?
It's not the best situation, and we all know that.
Look, I told you Donovan demanded a trade. It's over.
Whoa, he's going to the Heat.
I don't know what it means. So Terry already sent me a DM like, hey, man, what do you think this means? I have no idea. Is he listening to a song? I have no idea what that means.
Hey, guys.
I do not know. I have no idea. But the point is, I think there's a lot of anxiety right now.
Yes.
Man. Like there is no doubt about that. Let's get some of your comments in here. A drinking and cigar journey with Eric Leatham says Utah should use their trade exception for Cam Reddish or Jalen Johnson. I've heard a lot about Cam Reddish.
Yeah.
A lot of people. The problem is I think Cam's pretty limited. I mean, there's a reason that Atlanta moved him to New York. I mean, I'm not going to say they gave up on him, but they felt he was expendable because I think Cam's just limited.
Yeah.
And that, to me, right now, you can't really do a lot until you make this trade, or you essentially you're in or you're out on DeAndre Ayton. Once you get some clarity on that deal, I think then you can move on.
Right.
Because, again, I feel very certain that the Utah Jazz will be able to acquire DeAndre Ayton if they want to. I think they have the draft capital from the Minnesota trade. I think they will be able to acquire DeAndre Ayton if they'd like. Neville93, good morning to you, friend. He says, good morning, lads. What a game last night. Basura.
Yeah.
Basura.
Right.
Which is como se dice for garbage.
Yeah, casual.
Good morning, Mesh. Good to see you. Brett Robbins says, I picture Danny sitting in a hot tub fishing tomatoes, falling off his sandwich like Eddie Griffin in Deuce Bigelow with a wireless phone on speaker, just shooting the breeze to whatever GM wants to talk.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And there's like a cigar in the thing, and Pudge NYC, good morning to you, friend. Good to see you. Mesh says, what do you think of Conley and Boyan for Tobias Harris? Tobias Harris is making a lot of money. Tobias Harris is a nice player.
I
don't know if that's a huge improvement.
Yeah.
That's what I'm sitting here thinking. Is Tobias Harris a huge improvement?
Just so we're all clear, he's making $37.5 million a year. Like, he's not making little guy money. He's making big boy money.
Yeah, I don't love that. I don't love that. Jake R says, good morning. Let's see some off-season movement today. Everybody's thirsty.
Yes.
Everybody is thirsty.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not criticizing Jazz fans for being thirsty, but at the same time, like, you got to understand that like a week from now, if they've acquired DeAndre Ayton and the roster's looking amazing, you're going to look back and be like, man, we should have just been patient. Like, this is a process. It's playing out. Like, we shouldn't be losing our wig over here because Sean Marks decided to take the weekend to think about his options, because that's essentially what's happened by all reports. Then the Brooklyn Nets and Sean Marks took the weekend to look at the table, or look at their big board, if you will, and see what deals they have in place, which, by the way, I have to say, I agree with. You have so many options in deals and things that you could do here. You have to have a grip on them all. And not only do you have to understand what the trade is and how the numbers work and everything, you got to understand how that impacts you moving forward.
Yes.
And I think it's just a lot of information that you have to look at.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I just think it's one of those things where you have to find a way to be patient. You have to find a way to be patient.
It's hard, man.
Greg Hawkins, good morning to you. He sends us $250 in Philippine money. which I think is $5.
Is that true?
Yes. Utah to the Big 12. Fingers crossed. Let's go. This is so funny because how interesting is it now that Utah fans, and Greg Hawkins is a big Ute,
right?
Big Ute supporter. That Utah fans are like, we got to get to the Big 12 with BYU right now. We're going to talk. We are going to talk a ton about that for sure. Caleb says, does DeAndre Ayton want to go to Utah? I think DeAndre Ayton wants to get paid. And Caleb, it's interesting you bring this up because one of the things I've heard from sources around the NBA is that DeAndre Ayton's going to have a tough time getting a max extension from anybody right now.
Yeah. Because
of the financial landscape and what's happened over the last couple of weeks, you're seeing that a lot more teams are tight on the purse strings. And the Utah Jazz are actually one of the few teams who can do a sign and trade financially now because they've cleared a pretty good amount of space. I mean, they have $11 million in luxury tax threshold right now. They have enough room to make that deal.
Right.
And if they are able to send out, a Mike Conley to a Dallas or a Mike Conley to the Clippers, which is another thing that I was asked about yesterday. Hey, is Mike Conley really, interested in Dallas? I think Mike Conley would love to be in Dallas or LA. So I do think those are two viable landing spots for Mike. But the bigger question for me is, what is DeAndre Ayton's value? Because one of the things I know that Danny Ainge is steadfast against is being the guy that sets the market. Danny Ainge doesn't want to be the guy who determines DeAndre Ayton's value. Danny Ainge wants to be the guy that's going to tell DeAndre Ayton what his value is. And he's going to say, hey, we're not going to give you $30 million a year, because I think there is some wild speculation about what DeAndre Ayton's asking for. I think DeAndre Ayton would very much like to be a $28 to $30 million a year guy.
Yeah.
And I am pretty convinced that the Jazz don't want DeAndre Ayton to be a $28 to $30 million a year guy. And so it's going to be interesting to see, hey, is it a one-year deal where he's on a prove-it deal? I would love that. I would love to see a motivated DeAndre Ayton in a contract year.
Yeah.
I would truly love to see that.
Yeah.
Because his meltdown in Phoenix last year where he got benched in the playoffs, that damaged his value. There's no doubt about that. And there's also no doubt that if you give DeAndre Ayton a 5-year deal, let's say, or if you give DeAndre Ayton even a 3-year deal, you're taking a pretty significant risk, because this is a guy that is soft. This is a guy that is somebody who collapsed under the expectations of being one of the fundamental reasons that the Phoenix Suns won a championship.
Right.
He folded, they folded. He took a lot of heat and a lot of blame for that. Is that a guy you want to hand 5 years and $150 million to? Probably not. And so it's one of those things where you have to kind of figure out, hey, where are you at on DeAndre Ayton? And I think it's a huge question, Jake. And I don't know. But I will again say I'm pretty convinced that Danny Ainge doesn't want to be the guy setting that market.
Yeah, and I think if, again, looking at this, I think the question that has to be asked is DeAndre Ayton a better value? Again, hear me clearly. Is DeAndre Ayton a better value for what you're getting than Rudy Gobert was for what you're getting? Because that's ultimately what I think is going to be the question if this deal gets done. Like, if you bring DeAndre Ayton in, the first question everyone's going to ask is, hey, well, you've essentially traded the Rudy Gobert money. You got all these guys back. You went and used some of those picks and assets to get DeAndre Ayton. So essentially, you've turned Rudy Gobert into DeAndre Ayton, and you're going to obviously pay DeAndre Ayton less money. I think the impact on the floor and how it feels will be really interesting, because as he was just pointing out, there shouldn't be an issue around DeAndre Ayton being motivated or wanting to put numbers out on the floor or proving his worth. This is somebody who was a top end draft pick, supposed to be the guy, everybody's cup of tea, and has been a little bit of a letdown if you really think about it. Yes, he's been good, but he hasn't been as good as I think people thought he would be, and that's the problem. So I just think that, as soon as the DeAndre Ayton deal gets done, presuming it gets done, that would be the question I would ask. And my opinion is, I think I would rather have Ayton on less money than Gobert on what his current deal is. I do think I would want that, because that gives me more flexibility across the roster. So that's probably where I'd come down on that. But ultimately, what matters is winning. Does this team, inside of the next 3 years, with Danny Ainge at the helm, with Don at the helm on the floor, does this roster get to the Western Conference Finals inside of 3 years? That's what matters.
Well, think about some of the names that are on these rookie exceptions, these contracts where they got max extensions to their rookie deal. I mean, you're talking about guys like Trae Young, Luka Doncic, Bam Adebayo, Donovan Mitchell, like cemented stars in this league, right? Like guys that you can hand the basketball to and say, hey, go win me a game, kid.
Yes.
Like you can do that. And when you look at centers, I mean, Bam Adebayo probably is the best example of a guy who can do enough to earn that extension. DeAndre Ayton isn't half the defender that Bam Adebayo is. DeAndre Ayton doesn't play with the intensity that a Bam Adebayo plays at. I'm fine to extend Bam Adebayo. I am not fine to extend DeAndre Ayton to that extent. And I think that's the question that the Jazz have to answer is how do you justify paying DeAndre Ayton Bam Adebayo money? And I don't know the answer to that question. When you look at the list of these other guys, it's guys like Jamal Murray. It's guys like MPJ. It's guys like Ben Simmons.
Well,
Jason Tatum.
MPJ falls into the Ayton category. I think there's still questions about MPJ.
Yeah, but I think the questions are, can he stay healthy? The questions are not, will he produce? Michael Porter Jr. has produced when you put the ball in his hands. Jamal Murray's another guy.
He's produced for sure.
Absolutely, but now he's got this knee thing, and supposedly, by the way, he's ready to rock and roll. He looks fantastic on court. He's playing 5-on-5 again. Like, he looks fantastic. But you look at the other, the elephant in the room here is Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
Karl Anthony Towns it just signed a massive extension. Is that a guy that you'd rather have instead of DeAndre Ayton?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So when we're talking about extending DeAndre Ayton or doing a sign-and trade, I know, and I've been told directly by two NBA sources that one of the biggest problems in doing a sign-and trade with DeAndre Ayton is DeAndre Ayton's expectation of what you're going to pay him. And I think that's something that Danny Ainge has to be very careful with because I don't think you want any more than 12, 15% of your salary cap tied up in a center.
And clearly with what they've dealt with the Rudy deal, again, all due respect to Rudy, not really about him, just about what he was getting paid. With what you had to deal with that, I would guess that there's a lot of hesitancy around paying guys that much.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's a very interesting time.
Yes.
When you look at what's going on, I think it's a very interesting time. Cody Strickland says, I would love to see Don working with Blake Griffin. I think Blake is a role player on a championship caliber team.
Yeah.
I think that's where he is. Good morning, Jeremy Bolton. Good to see you, my friend. Dominion Small says, it's a retool. Why would Ainge rebuild in his 60s? I don't know that Danny's age has much to do with it. I mean,
no.
For my money anyway, I just don't see that. Giggity says, good morning, guys. Sounds like Donovan is switching to a career of construction now. Yeah, it's funny looking at this Donovan Mitchell tweet and how many people are just up in arms about it.
Oh, my God. He tweeted something. That means he's leaving the Utah Jazz.
The comment section on this tweet, I hope you don't leave, bro. Donovan Mitchell tweeted, build you up to tear you down.
Right.
I don't think it's in reference to the Jazz. I really don't. But Alan Jedi Zog says, motivation, Donovan, motivation. Appreciate you and all you do.
Cryptic tweets.
Dallas Amaker, block out all the noise, bro. Chippy, Miami will love you more than Utah ever did. Kid Clutch, we love you, Donovan. Don't pay all these haters no mind.
You're welcome.
New York Forever M just replies with a tweet that has a picture of Donovan in a Knick uniform. Zoe Butt Diff says, make it happen with a picture of Donovan in a Heat uniform. It's hysterical to me.
Yeah, people just go crazy, dude.
Like, every time he tweets, it's like, oh, God, he's leaving, Monty. What does this mean? Tell me what it means. I'm in your DMs, bro. Tell me what it means. What are you talking about?
He's not going anywhere, bro.
Come on.
I'm so tired of it. I'm so tired of it, bro.
And again, I just go back to the idea of the Jazz tearing it down and
I'm tired of all the narratives locally about how, like, Donovan, is unhappy because Johnny Bryant wasn't hired, or like the Utah Jazz front office is sending messages to Donovan by not handling the offseason exactly as he would. Like, get out of here, bro. Like, it's just not. It's all speculation, and I just feel like, again, I'm totally open, and I love having the conversation around, what's your opinion on what the Utah Jazz actions say they're doing as far as rebuild or retool. I'm open to that conversation. My opinion is that they are retooling. I think that you had to move the Rudy contract because it basically handicapped you. You couldn't really do anything else until that money was clear. So I don't view that move as we're rebuilding and tearing it down. No. I view it as a necessity to get to where you want to go, which, again, I'll just keep saying is the Western Conference Finals right now. Ultimately, obviously, to win a championship, but you can't get to the NBA Finals without the Western Conference Finals. So to me, the Rudy thing was just a product of, hey, we got to move this money to start making things happen. So that's why I say I'm open to the retool rebuild discussion. I'm not open to, hey, Don's leaving and the Jazz don't want him and they're sending all these messages. I just think that's fantasy land, man.
Oh, boy. Brett Robbins breaking news right here on the Monty Show.
Here we go.
Donovan Mitchell to the Shanghai Sharks, confirmed with that tweet. Wow.
Dude.
Wow.
He's going to play with the JIMMER.
Wow. Wow. Donovan Mitchell going to the Chinese Basketball League.
Wow.
Brett Robbins put it in the comments. It must be true.
The rack attack.
James Knight said, you guys are so condescending. Yeah, we are.
We are. We are.
Hullabilly, good morning. Other fans just want our guys so bad. But that's the thing with the Heat. Are the Heat really trading Bam Adebayo so that they can, does anybody think that Tyler Hero, who, by the way, did anybody see Tyler Hero get broken off at his camp yesterday? He got triple crossed at his own camp yesterday. It was not good. Anyway, Tanner says, also, Rudy can't take criticism. No, he can't. I totally agree with that. Dylan Walters, what are the chances of Kyrie to Utah and teaming up with Don? 0.
Yeah.
I would say 0. Ryan Buckley, good morning, friend. He says, Danny has never lost a trade. I don't think ever in the history of trades. He's made some questionable
Buddy knows what
ones.
he's doing.
Hullabilly says, Kessler can make a 3 here and there, but he needs to develop his shot to be effective in the NBA. Yeah, and I don't think he's playing in Summer League, by the way. I could be wrong about that. I thought somebody said he wasn't going to play in Summer League, but we'll see. Brett Robbins, we are not rebuilding. We have 2 to 3 years for Kessler to develop. I would agree. I don't think you're rebuilding.
And that's what I mean. So if the plan is, again, and this is the part of the conversation I love, if the plan is and the strategy is, hey, we're going to develop Kessler, okay, great, then you don't need to go and get some dynamic big like Ayton. You need to get some backup for Kessler.
Yes.
But if the plan is, hey, we're just gonna go all in on Kessler, we're gonna deal with some of the rookie issues that every rookie deals with in the league, but ultimately he's gonna be the guy. Okay, I'm cool with that. But damn, you better have perimeter defense. You better have scoring on the wing. Like, you better solidify that side of the floor so Kessler can afford to be crappy for a year.
Yeah.
Like, I'm open to that.
You don't have a choice. Yeah. Tanner says, speaking of Jamal Murray, when's he coming back? I believe he is good to go starting in training camp. So, yeah. Brett Robbins, let's not forget him calling for the ball in the post every play and crying that he didn't get touches. Are you talking about Rudy there?
Yes.
Jordan Nelson says, so under that logic, LeBron is the most mentally weak player in the game. I'm
not really sure which logic we're referencing.
Yeah. George Mashikia says, Jazz need Anunoby and Turner. OG Anunoby's a great player as a complimentary piece, but I'd love to have him on the club. I would love to have him. And Toronto supposedly is open to moving him. Alex Chacon says, can we make Rudy trade official today, or do we have to wait till the 8th? Yeah, I believe it is the 8th or the 9th. Probably is the 8th. Bucho Rainwater. What's up, Bucho?
Bucho! Raining and stuff.
What do we think about our new coach? I love Will Hardy. I mean, that's the guy, I think I said pretty early on, that's the guy I would hire.
Yeah, we told you June 6th that that was the guy they were going to go after, and I think he's a great hire. I think he's young, he's energetic. I think he's got an idea of what he wants to do, and I got to tell you, not that it's any surprise he's at Summer League, but I love the fact that he's sitting there courtside watching these guys. I mean, I think it's proper, and it's what he should be doing. And again, whether it's Kessler, Jared Butler, or anybody else, these guys need to be developed and turned into NBA contributors.
Yeah, let's talk about Patrick Beverley real quick, because one of the big rumors going around is that the Utah Jazz are buying out Patrick Beverley's contract. $13 million they acquired him in the Rudy trade. I don't know why this makes sense, because I just don't think it makes sense. He clearly has value around the league. I think if you buy him out, my guess is he ends up in Dallas. But I could also see him in a number of places. The thing that concerns you is buying him out means you get nothing for him, and he becomes a free agent. Why would you do that when you know very clearly, and this is my opinion anyways, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see that the Utah Jazz should buy him out. I see the Utah Jazz should trade him. I absolutely could see flipping him. And again, I think the perfect landing spot for him is in Phoenix. Why would you buy him out when you can put him into a deal and get value for him? Yeah. That, to me, Jake, has never made sense that the Jazz would buy out Pat Bev.
Yeah, and you mentioned Phoenix there. Like, I think that was the whole point of getting Beverley as part of the Rudy deal. Like, if you think about it, in this proposed Brooklyn-Phoenix deal for Kevin Durant, part of the ask is Mikal Bridges and a number of other guys, obviously. So if you're Phoenix and you're trying to acquire Kevin Durant and you're shipping those guys out, you don't just not replace those guys. And Pat Bev is somebody who you want on your team, but you hate him if he's on the other team. So to me, Patrick Beverley is not Mikal Bridges, but he's pretty damn good at playing defense and being a problem, as we all know. So if I'm Danny Ainge and the Utah Jazz, hell no, I'm not buying Patrick Beverley out. I'm keeping Patrick Beverley until I know unequivocally what's happening with the Kevin Durant deal. And if I can't use Pat Bev as a point of leverage in that deal to get DeAndre Ayton, then I'm going to trade him somewhere else because, again, as he just said, Pat Bev is a fit on essentially every NBA team. Now, he's not going to want to go and play for the Orlando Magic, let's say. They would buy him out. But any contender, any team that is postseason bound would want Patrick Beverley on their team. So that's why I say you're not buying him out. That makes zero sense, logically speaking. What makes sense is to do nothing with him until the Kevin Durant, DeAndre Ayton situation is worked out for the Utah Jazz. And if they're unable to use him as part of that, or if that deal just doesn't work out for the Utah Jazz, then you would trade him to another team and get value back. That, to me, is what makes sense. But this nonsense about buying this guy out and just letting him go, it just is. It's wasteful. There's no point to it. So that's what I think they do with Pat.
Yeah, Danny Ainge is not a guy that just gives away assets. I think, again, I just go back to what I've said for probably 10 years. Danny Ainge is a savvy front office operative. He's not somebody that tends to just cast things off. And by the way, if you don't trade Patrick Beverley, he clearly has value on this team. I mean, I don't know that culturally speaking, with his history, I don't know that he is a great fit in this town based on the fact that he has stirred up Jazz fans quite a bit.
Yeah.
But if he ever suits up for the Utah Jazz, Jazz fans will love him.
Yeah.
I mean, and to your point, when he's on your team, you love the guy.
Yes.
I don't see them buying him out. I just don't. I think when you look at where the Jazz are and what they need, you don't go trade for a guy like that is clearly in demand and then just give him away and pay him to be given away.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, it doesn't make in my mind, it doesn't make a lot of sense. By the way, if you're here right now, please give us a thumbs up and a like. It really does help the show grow if you just click that thumbs up button right now.
Right now.
That'd be great. By the way, I know it's a new day.
Right.
Any thoughts on Chet Holmgren? And I know that you spent last night pleasuring your nether regions, watching
Everyone
him play.
laughed at me. Oh, well, Kevin Durant comparisons are dumb. You don't know what you're talking about. That's fine. Chet can't shoot the three. Chet doesn't have a handle. You didn't see any of that last night.
Nobody said
that. Yeah, they did.
No.
Yes, they did.
No.
Yes, they did. On draft day, yes, they did.
Here's the issue.
Right.
The two key words there are summer and league. And when you put them together, when you put summer league together and you translate that
he can only play
from Latin
who's in front of him
to English, it means it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah, go find me the summer league MVP who's turned into a league MVP. Or
pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Get out of here! Like, it's so
all the best players
rare.
in the league dominated summer league. All of them.
Come on.
All of them.
Lonzo Ball won the summer league MVP. What does it matter?
I'm not talking.
What's it matter?
It can be Summer League MVP or not. Steph Curry was a standout in Summer League. Like, all these guys who came out and are now all-stars and max guys dominated the Summer League. It's the first step.
Yeah. Look, and
you would
again,
be saying, you would be vilifying the guy if he had a crappy, performance, and you would say, "Oh, I told you so."
I would be. Oh, I'd be all over
You know what I
that.
mean? So that's why I say, like,
absolutely.
we can sit here and say it's Summer League, but the fact is that's all he's got. Who else is he going to play right now?
Well, right. I understand that. But the one thing over the next 2.5 weeks, please, can we not can we
he's
not
the Jesus Christ of basketball,
he's
bro.
the greatest player I've ever seen. Did you see
just kind of scruff it and play with it when it's wet?
Daddy, did you see the Dirk fadeaway that Chet hit last night over some guy who's never going to play in the league?
He's an assassin.
Ever?
On,
my
man.
God. Wow.
I'm going to hold you to the fire when he's dominating in the league.
Where's the lube?
I'm going to do that.
Stop. The Jazz don't, how do I put this bluntly? The Jazz Summer League team ain't talented.
I'm not saying they are talented, but what I am saying is Chet was very efficient last night and looked good.
Bro. By the way, am I the only one worried about Jared Butler still?
Yeah. That's probably the bigger story.
I was not that excited to, I mean.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yes.
I was not that excited. Chet Holmgren comes out and puts up 23-7, 4 dimes, 6 blocks. And then there's Jared Butler.
Yeah, next question.
Nikola Jovic. Yep.
Dominated.
Yep. I mean, you look at it is what it is. Tanner says, I think comment dump. Thank you. I think Chet will be good, but let's chill out. It's Summer League. Thank you.
Here we go.
Not your normal flatulence.
This is the convenient argument. Oh, it's Summer League. It's Summer League. All right, when he's playing 35 minutes a night and putting up 25 a night, we'll see what it is.
Is it Summer League?
It is Summer League, but he doesn't have. Who else is he going to play? You want him to go play in the Drew instead of Summer League? Like, where's he going to go?
Alex Chacon says it's Summer League.
Yeah, it's Summer League. I know.
Jeremy Bolton says trade Patrick Beverley for Jacob Conover.
Yeah.
He should have played against Boise, so let's get him on the Jazz.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Brett Robbins says Chet will fizzle out like Kristaps.
Right.
That's a comparison I hear all the time. Oh, well, Chet
It's a fair comparison.
Yeah, he's just that big, lanky MFer, weighs 100 pounds if you put like a boulder in his pocket.
The difference is that he's not a Euro. He's a tough player. That's the difference.
Hey, man, did you see his Eurostep? My God.
Suckmyass.com.
I mean, like, that was one of those 4 boxes of Kleenex move where it just keeps going and going, and you're like, wait, let's wind it back and do it all over again.
Wow.
And then your forearms cramping.
Wow.
Well said.
Man, that was
Just a family show. Just a big doofus light post in the corner. Wow. Hullabilly says LMFAO.
Yeah.
Laugh my.
Yeah.
James Knight says, how many G League games have you played, Jake?
You always say that, and I'm still wondering.
You never played the game.
What is that? Like, what does that even matter, man?
Look,
honestly,
I kick the crap out of those kangaroos, and I drink your own 4X Gold that I'm never going to send you, and you still haven't ever played in the league. So shut up.
Yeah.
You shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Hullabilly says Jared Butler was looking like Eric Maynor. Oh boy,
Eric Maynor.
Don't do
Jesus.
that. Alex Chacon says the way Jared Butler played is another reason to keep Pat Bev.
Seriously.
That's pretty much self-explanatory.
Seriously, you're not wrong, bro. You are not wrong. You're not wrong.
That's where we are, Alex, and you're not wrong. Jordan Nelson says, man, if Jared Butler was like 4 inches taller, his defense would be nice. But yeah, Butler's worrisome.
We're getting somewhere.
4 inches is a big deal. Ask your mom.
Dude, what are we doing?
I don't know.
What the hell are we doing?
Landon Golar says Caruso in Utah still a thing. Haha. Yes, according to Jeremy Bolton. By the way, I would love Alex Caruso on this team. Brett Robbins says, I mean, Rudy had a few Euros now, guys. Okay.
Yeah. Well.
Okay.
You know.
Hey, Jake, if Chet doesn't work out, which I think he will you admit that you were wrong, Tanner Plummer says?
Yes.
Hey, guys.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think I've admitted that I'm wrong on things before.
Jake, if Michael Jordan doesn't work out.
Hey, guys.
By the way, Michael Jordan on the cover of 2K23. We all excited about that?
Yeah, at least he can't blow his knee out.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in the curse. By the way, speaking of 2K23.
Yeah.
I am not a basketball video game guy.
Uh-huh.
I am a hockey guy.
Right.
I am a Call of Duty guy. I just find 2K to be so difficult. It frustrates the F out of me.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be Steph Curry, and every shot will, like, rattle out. And I'll be like, okay, green on the release, green on the shot. Oh, in and out. It's like, are you serious right now? And then some dude will come down with, like, Rudy Gobert, and Rudy will go 6 of 6 from 3. The fuck,
well, you know, he can shoot. He should get the ball in every possession, obviously.
2K, my moon butthole. Brett Robbins says, or Trent Forrest, truth. James Knight says, Jake takes the bait every time.
Yeah.
Probably. The Blind Swordsman says, Jake, let's see Chet play against the pros.
Yeah, we will. That's my point. Who else is he going to play right now? He only has Summer League. That's his only option.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
If I buy you a Chet Holmgren jersey,
yeah,
will you sleep in it and use it as a dress?
Every single time.
Well, I don't know about the dress portion, but, you know.
Go a little breezy underneath. You know what I'm saying?
You know, cheap hotel.
You probably would. Snail Trail.
Right.
Jeremy Bolton says Caruso. I just said.
You said Snail Trail on our YouTube podcast.
Jerry Bolton says Caruso to Utah. Hell yeah, the Jazz could use his 0.5 points per game and 9 turnovers. Hey, man. You know, Lorenzo Miranda says I came in at the right time. That's
yes, you did.
Yeah, so did Jake last night.
Yeah.
Cody Strickland, does anyone get hooked on watching Neil deGrasse Tyson Cosmos and find it so entertaining? No, actually, no. Cody, that's you. So you're saying Neil deGrasse Tyson is your Chet Holmgren and stuff? All right. Brett Robbins says, wow, who's this guy hating on Caruso? Exactly, Brett. Exactly.
Yeah.
Jeremy Bolton said nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Neville 93 says, I love 2K. It's fun if you know how to play.
Well, I think he just called you stupid.
Man, he's saying, so wait, like you saying that I'm saying what you're saying is not what I'm saying and stuff is what you're saying.
You're casual.
Yeah. Hullabilly says, NBA Live 06 was the best NBA game I enjoyed. Yeah. What was the one where there was like, he's on fire? NBA Jam or something like that?
Might have been NBA Jam, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. That was fun. Giggity says, Monty, that goal you scored on NHL the other day was sick.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, top shelf.
Yeah, I taught him everything he knows.
Yeah, your mom. Jeremy Bolton says, Caruso is a poor man's Gordon Giracek. Wow, really? Really?
Okay.
Come on. NBA Jam is the only basketball game I ever enjoyed. It was an NBA Jam. I agree. No, Tyson is my Caruso. Oh, okay, Cody Strickland. Spencer Morgan says Jacob Conover wears a headband too. Damn right he does.
Yes, he does.
Spence. Damn right.
Yes, he does.
Damn right. M.A.
Wow.
M. Alvarez says, I find it funny that Ute fans have been crappy to BYU fans because they aren't in the Pac-12. Now they're all about to follow them to the Pac-12. Well, M. Alvarez coming in.
Speaking of which,
you know, Brett Robbins says Jam, yes. NBA Jam. Real quick, Dylan Walker, do you think a duo of Don and Ayton could win a championship? Yes, that could be the foundation for a title team.
I think it could be a foundation, but I'm not going to sit here and say that's all it's going to take. They're going to need a third guy off the wing to really finish it.
One Round Left says on 2K, if you change the shot release meter to real player percentage, you'll make a lot more shots.
Why can't it just be like that out the gate? Why do we got to go into settings and stuff?
You know.
Like, why do I have to enter launch codes for Steph Curry to make, threes like he does in real life?
You know. John Downward. Is that his name? John Downard. You know that guy knew it was NBA Jam. You know he did. Gabe Levely, NBA Jam or something. Are you high, Monty? Absolute classic. Exactly right.
Flexes me.
Exactly right. James Knight says 99 cents.
Thanks, James.
Did you send me 99 cents? I didn't see that come through, James, but appreciate you. Where's my beer now? If we traded Conley, what point guards could we be eyeing after we get Ayton?
I think it really depends on what you get with the Ayton package, what you send out, like what the rest of the league does. Like,
that's really tough to say.
Yeah, I mean, I totally am with you on that question. I just think it's damn near impossible to answer right now because we just don't know what would be available as part of a Conley deal after the KD Ayton situation goes down.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, the Monty Show. We have been talking Utah Jazz basketball. But here's a question I want to ask you. Let's switch to Pac-12 in the saga with Pac-12.
Yeah.
How important is the BYU-Utah rivalry? And how critical is it that it's played every year? I would tell you it's absolutely critical. It's not optional. It is a game that, in my opinion, simply must be played every single year, in and out. Twice a year in basketball, once a year in football. It's just so important to our state. And I think it's so important to the lifeblood of football in this town. The recruiting wars, the battles at East High School, you just need it, that pressure, that passion, that desire, the in-home battles, the idiots who wear half blue and half red hats. We need that. And I think that's why it's so meaty and delicious that all of a sudden the Pac-12 is collapsing. And now your biggest question is, can the Pac-12 survive with the exodus of USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten and Washington and Oregon applying for membership in the Big Ten? And now you have the Pac-12 doing the only thing that they can do, which is try to find more revenue per school. So they're negotiating their TV deal a full 2 years ahead of time. I just don't see, Jake, a way that this conference can survive.
Yeah, and I think this is the price you pay for having Larry Scott as your commissioner for so long, and the damage you've done to premier brands like SC or like Oregon or Washington or even Utah. I think if you really look up and down the Pac-12, I mean, you don't have a whole stockpile of amazing teams. I mean, the Pac-12 for your average college football fan is probably like 3-4 teams, maybe, if you really think about it. Like, how many people outside of the state of Utah really know just how damn good Kyle Whittingham is at building a football team? Like, how many people outside of the state of Utah, like, know what we have going on in this state and why the Holy War is so important? So when I look at the Pac-12 and I look at the position they're in, I don't blame any of these schools for wanting to make the jump. I think, in fact, it is all on these guys who run the conference. They've made mistakes. When were we at? How long ago was that we were at Pac-12 Media Day? What has it been, 5 years now?
Yeah.
What was that, 5 years ago? We were at Pac-12 Media Day when we were doing the show in Phoenix, and Larry Scott literally sat in front of us and said, oh, yeah, we're going to have a streaming deal and DirecTV contracts, and everything's going to be amazing. And what did we get? Oh, that's right. You're on Dish Network. I can't watch you and I have no desire to get Dish Network. And this is the price you pay. And I just think that we haven't seen this happen a lot on this level because most conferences like the SEC or the Big Ten or even the ACC, with how weak that conference is, how top heavy that one is, they have good TV stuff. And that's the difference. And to me, not to rant, but it's so frustrating that you get premier matchups in the Pac-12 that nobody on the East Coast gives a damn about. They don't care.
Well, let's be honest, though, because they don't see those matchups.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that the Big 12 should absolutely want to get at least 4 teams out of the Pac-12 is because it gives you an east to west footprint. It allows you, in my opinion, to have again, if you look at the footprint, to have a BYU Oklahoma State game that is in primetime. It allows you to have a Utah West Virginia game that's in primetime. It is so imperative that the Big 12 win teams from the Pac-12 because the worst case scenario, in my opinion, is if the Big Ten were to end up with Oregon and Washington. I think it absolutely makes the Big Ten the best conference in college sports.
Even over the SEC.
Even over the SEC, because what does the SEC not have? A national reach. And when I talk about national reach, you're not going to get an 8 o'clock kickoff in Los Angeles with an SEC team in December or in November or in October.
Right.
Whereas if the Big Ten, let's say the Big Ten has an Ohio State Oregon kickoff at Autzen Stadium at 8 o'clock Pacific time. You think about the reach that adding Pac-12 teams gives to the Big Ten and the Big 12. It's imperative, in my opinion, that if the Big 12 truly wants to compete, and I know they do, but if they truly want to compete, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah is not enough. It's not enough. And I know that seems like an awful lot, but if you truly look at what you have, Utah is the only national brand in that entire mix. With all due respect, what's going on at Arizona State right now is crippling to this conversation because the football brand at Arizona State is absolutely dead right now.
Yeah.
Arizona is a basketball school. And hell, if you add Arizona basketball to the Big 12, it only becomes a better basketball conference. It becomes a great conference instead of a good conference in basketball. But football pays the bills.
Yep.
And Arizona State, and Colorado aren't exactly tearing it up in football. And my point is, Utah is vitally important to this conversation. But if the Big 12 really wants to go big, they need to add, I think Oregon is the prize in the Pac-12 right now. Absolutely.
Nationally speaking.
Yeah, well, I think nationally, regionally, any way you slice it, Phil Knight wants to put Oregon in the best position that he can. Mm-hmm. Phil Knight, the founder and current boss at Nike, wants to put Oregon in the best possible position that he can. I think Phil Knight would absolutely love to have Oregon in the SEC. I don't know that the SEC would like to add Oregon, but if the SEC doesn't and the Big Ten adds Oregon, I think you're absolutely giving the Big Ten a chance to be the most lucrative, successful athletic conference in all of college athletics.
Yeah.
And I know that's saying a lot because the SEC, with what they accomplish in all sports, and I don't mean just football and basketball, what the SEC does in baseball, what the SEC does in track and field, all those things matter. Trust me when I say every penny counts in college athletics right now. But football is king because so many kids aren't playing college basketball anymore.
Yeah.
And when they do, they play 1 year. You have no choice right now but to go play college football. It is king. It is always going to drive revenue. We're talking about $100 million per school per year in the Big Ten. That's major buku dollars. And I don't care who the Pac-12 gets in the bed with. You're not making $100 million per year per school with whatever and whenever you get a TV deal. And to bring this back home, Utah absolutely needs to get to the Big 12. It's got to happen. Put the irony and the BS and that team down south.
Yeah.
This is Pac-12 country.
Right.
No, it's actually not Pac-12 country, and it never was. Right? Like, I think we fully understand, without question, Utah is in a very vulnerable position right now because, in all likelihood, you're not an option in the Big Ten.
No.
You're certainly not an option in the SEC. So you better hope that you end up in the Big 12. And I think if I am the folks up on the Hill, I'm doing everything I can do to secure a partnership with another institution, be it Colorado, whoever. Hey, join us. Let's go make our pitch to the Big 12.
Yeah.
It's got to happen.
Yeah, and I think it's also, I agree, they're vulnerable, but I also think on the flip side of that, from a like a silver lining standpoint, I think it's a big opportunity. Like, I think, yes, this is classic life scenario. Hey, if this doesn't get done, you're going to be in a bad spot. But if you can get it done, you're going to be thriving, and that's what I think is so important to talk about here. We saw BYU take the first leap, which I feel like sort of paved the way for this whole conversation. And really, this conversation goes back to Texas and Oklahoma making their jump. I feel like that's kind of what kick-started all this movement we're seeing now. But I think BYU committing and going really was a signal that, hey, there's opportunity here. Like, you're in the Pac-12, which is the worst conference in the country. Like, everybody agrees on that. Why wouldn't you make a jump? Why wouldn't you shuffle things up? And by the way, the other thing that I think is at play here is with all this change happening and realignment and everything, How long is it before the NCAA gets dissolved after all this, gets handled? Because I think that's also something that's at play on the fringes right now. Like, once everything's realigned and everything goes down, like, what is the use for having the NCAA at this point? That's my biggest thing. I don't know. Now.
I think that's a very good question. I think that is a very, very good question. Jeremy Bolton says, I'd love to have the Utes Hawks swoop turds in the Big 12.
Okay.
This feels okay.
Okay.
Greg Hawkins, we won't be following anyone into the Big 12 if we join in the same year. It's a good point. You'll be joining together as one.
Right.
Combining forces.
Keep telling yourself that story, bud. Keep telling yourself that story.
That's every day.
That's exactly right. Jeremy says, college football rivalries, man. As much as I hate Utah and want them to go 0-12 every year, I still want to play the game every year. I totally agree with
Agreed.
that. Every year.
What did it do to this town when BYU beat Utah? Not that I like BYU more than Utah or anything, when did that happen? It seems like that never has BYU. I don't think BYU's ever beaten Utah. Has that? I mean, if you ask a Ute fan, Utah's undefeated.
Don't you know who I am?
Anyway, I'm being a jerk now. I am totally being a jerk. John Downard says should be played every year. Enough said. Yes.
Seriously.
Yes. And I still like that Jeremy Bolton said Utes Hawks swoops turds in the Big 12. I think that's interesting. He also says I'd rather go 1-9 against Utah than go 0-0. Truth.
Seriously.
Truth. Alex Chacon, that rivalry has to make more money than any other game or event that comes through Utah. I would gather so. Yeah. I would think so. Tanner Plummer, honestly, I think a good chunk of the state doesn't want to see BYU-Utah rivalry continue. Why? Because the rivalry has gotten really nasty between the two fan bases. It is what it is.
But it's a rivalry. What would you expect?
Hey, guys, why don't you come over? Let's all meet at Utah Pig Bus, and, we'll chop it up, and we'll play a game of beanbag toss, and
if you guys ever want to kick it, we'll flow.
We can't call it cornhole because that has a sexual connotation with Chet Holmgren in town. So why don't we just?
I said do you see what I have to work with here,
Chet
guys?
Holmgren.
Like, do you guys see what I have to work with here every day?
We all choose who we lay down with. You want to get to him, Chet Holmgren, please go right ahead. Dave Worlton said Utah State will be better than both Stop.
Get the hell out of here, man.
Dave?
Dude, Utah State is not – yes, they're important in this state. They're not Utah and BYU important, with all due respect.
Greg Hawkins says, my favorite childhood football memories were the Holy War Thanksgiving. So to me, bringing the rivalry game back would be great. And having it have conference leverage would be fantastic.
Dude, Greg, why do you have to get all nostalgic and everything? Why do we have to start talking about football games in the fall when the leaves are changing and, there's warm food on the table? And come on, dude. We're not ready. I'm not ready for that.
You can hear the leaf blowers and the rakes and the smoker.
Jim Nantz calling a college football game.
The smell of Jim Nantz doesn't call college football games. And Vern Lundquist calling college football games. Anyway, the smoke out of your smoker is a little thicker and a little more pungent. Anyway, yeah.
This is a tasty burger.
Brett Robbins says Dish Network XD. I agree. Dish has come a long way. I think their programming packages are great. 801-424-DISH. Call the Dish Pros. They don't advertise on our show. Jeremy Bolton says, LOL, Utah State. Okay, take it easy. I want to try and engage in football chat, but I need a team to support. Any suggestions? The University of Illinois. Thank you. Greg Hawkins says, LOL, Utah State. Utah State. That fits into your brand, James Knight. Support the Utah State Aggies. It's a fine program. Can we call them like Ton, Team Up North?
Elton, that little team up north.
Little team up, Elton.
Yeah.
Elton.
There you go. See, Elton.
Greg Hawkins says, LOL, Utah State. Kurt Meyer says, I find it ironic that the Pac are now trying to poach BYU. I thought the Pac had such church and state exclusions. All of a sudden, you're not a research institution, so
of higher learning.
Why don't you guys go play with the white salamander down in the creek? Like that.
Down in the creek.
In the creek. Because it's not a creek.
Wow.
But you have to admit, Utah fan, you have to admit the hyperbole and the garbage. Oh, yeah, look at that. TDS. Have fun.
Down by the river.
Have fun. Why don't you guys go back to the Mountain East? Oh, look at us. We're in the Pac-12.
Having fun is the name of the game.
We're a higher learning institution. What do you mean USC and UCLA left? What?
Makes me want to puke.
Man, hey, we got a cowboy hat. Why don't we go to the Big 12? We love BYU. They're our friends.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
You know, like Joey Smith and the guys down in Provo.
Yeah.
Did you see that temple they're building over there?
I hear the Vel is nice that time of year.
Taylorsville is such a nice place for a temple. You know, we could go down there and help you guys if you put in a good word.
In this one.
You know, if you put in a good word with the guys in Stillwater. You know, I mean, let's do this. Sit up.
And as you can see, I'm going through some shit right now.
TDS, we never said that.
What?
Those are the disciples down south. You know, like they're, hey, bless up, motherfuckers.
What's up, motherfuckers?
Well, I haven't lost my mind, but I'm not ready to flip the camera around.
You've lost your mind.
No, I haven't.
Yes.
No. Mrs. Monty will join us shortly. Pumped. Anyway, that's how I see the Utah fan.
Whew. Okay.
You know.
Yes. Yes. Wow.
James Knight says, how's BYU radio doing these days, Monty?
On BYU radio.
It's time for the rivalry game. Screw Utah on BYU radio.
I say I'm just fired up to be here today.
All right. Welcome into BYU Sports Nation. Tithing since 1995. I'm going to hell. I'm going to hell.
Wow.
Eric C says, I made it. How's Monty Town today? Dude, Monty Town is in shambles. Like the outhouse at the end of the street overflowing with Pac-12 dung. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Butthole.
You know, wow. Jeremy Bolton says, what just happened? Save us, Mrs. Oh, my God. But you can't tell me it's lost. I cannot be the only one.
Well, they'll never admit it. Ute fans will, again, with all due respect, Ute fans will never admit that they gave BYU a hard time for like the last decade. You know, but that's just part of what it is. Again, this is a rivalry. This isn't like best friends. This is a rivalry.
Come on. Like I just look at all of the trash talking, and here come the DMs, please.
When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer.
How do you Jeff says, how do you talk about Utah Pig Bus and not bring up Bam Bams? You're clearly a Utah fan. Are we really doing that? Oh, wow. Hey, man, you didn't say Bam Bam's barbecue, and we all know that makes you a Utah fan because you like Utah Pig Bus. Oink, oink, MFers. Are you really upset that I didn't? I like Bam Bam a lot. What are you talking about?
Shout to Mobamba.
Bro, what are you talking? Oh, DPG steaks, please. Hey, can we get some swig over here?
Hey, guys.
Like, do I have to name like, oh, it's the new skin. New skin. All right. Vivint Smart Home Lavelle Edwards Stadium Field. Do I have to go through like every sponsor of BYU football? Like, is that where we're at? Wow, you know what? You talk about, drinking beer. Where's swig?
On the new skin, BYU Radio Network.
On the BYU New Skin Network. That's what this rivalry has come down to.
Yes.
How are you really criticizing me for saying Utah Pig Bus and not Bam Bam?
All gas, no brakes.
Oh,
I mean, I think this rivalry is like how petty can we get on both sides? Because BYU is not innocent. BYU's not innocent. The fans, that is.
You guys said welcome to Monty in the morning. Clearly, you're Utah fans. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you. How dare you?
Yeah,
Tanner Plummer says Monty is officially high. I picked the wrong day to stop sniffing
Cocaine and hookers, my friend.
How else would you do this job?
Yeah, come on, bro.
Cocaine and hookers.
Yeah.
How the fuck else would you do this job?
I'm James Knight says, crack the window or something. You guys have inhaled.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
I have not inhaled. Who am I, Bill Clinton? I just think it's funny that the heat and the vitriol
it's real.
that is involved in the rivalry.
It is real, bro.
When we're on barbecue joints.
Yes.
I just think it's great.
Yes.
I do. I think it's awesome.
Yes.
I mean, Greg Hawkins says the paint on the wall hasn't dried yet. Clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly. Oh, Mrs. Monty just texted me to say that she has an 8 a.m. phone call this morning. Well, so now that means that's code word for we're married. You need to hurry up and flip the camera.
That's code word for you have 19 minutes and 55 seconds to get the show done.
Hayden Olson says possibly Mike Conley trades. Could be.
We talked about that earlier in the show.
Neil Huck says, did you eat paint chips as a kid? I did. Like that was I didn't have Lunchables. I had paint chips after school.
Paint chips and crackers.
You know. Justin Salas says, on the BYU network where we have been taking 10% of your money for over 100 years. Could be true. Jeremy Bolton says, too much ranch on the old Chipotle yesterday, Mott?
Yeah.
By the way, I did have Chipotle for lunch.
Lidocaine and B12.
All right, let's get serious and talk about the influence of podcasts.
Well, this is a good transition.
I want to play this Joe Rogan sound.
Yeah.
I actually think this is a really important conversation. So, and this might sound self-serving. It's not, honest to goodness. How influential are podcasts and radio hosts or your favorite talk show host in your life?
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the interesting conversations has been about the misinformation on talk radio.
Right.
And the guys like Joe Rogan, who generally does 10 to 12 million downloads a day, and his ability to get you to take this kind of cure or that kind of cure, or that, Aaron Rodgers took this medicine or that medicine because of him. So I want to play this bite. This is Joe Rogan doing an interview on a different podcast talking about why he hasn't had the former president of the United States on his show.
By the way, I'm not a Trump supporter in any way, shape, or form. I've had the opportunity to have him on my show more than once. I've said no every time. I don't want to help him.
Do you really bear the responsibility of the course of our country based on a conversation?
I think you can revitalize and rehabilitate someone's image in a way that is pretty shocking.
Do you agree with him?
Yeah,
Because that's Joe Rogan essentially saying, hey, I am not putting Donald Trump on my podcast.
Right.
Because I don't want to help him.
Right.
Does putting a guest on Joe Rogan's podcast help them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that listeners put a lot of weight into what Joe Rogan has to say. And I don't have a problem with that. I think he has an inherent responsibility. My issue is that I think, just like anything else, there is a bias. There's a choice that, and obviously every podcaster that does a show chooses what they're going to talk about. But I think when you've gotten to Joe Rogan's level of influence, you have a responsibility. And I'm not certainly advocating that he's got to put Donald Trump on a show or whatever. But at the same time, I think that Joe Rogan, took a ton of heat. Like, let's not forget, this is someone who almost got bounced from Spotify for a mixtape that came out of how many times he used the N-word. Like, people haven't forgot about that. So I absolutely think people put a ton of stock into what he says.
But I also think his brand is very powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt about that. But I do think when Joe Rogan talks, people listen.
Yes.
Yeah. And I do think that when you have the kind of influence that he has, I do think that he can clearly dictate who people vote for.
Yeah, he can. And hi. That was my knee.
Whoa.
Hi. He can. And I can appreciate what he said, but yet he's totally irresponsible he doesn't want to help Donald Trump, but he's totally irresponsible in half the other shit that he says.
Well, and I don't know that that's necessarily true. I think the one thing you have to remember is opinion is different than fact. Has Joe Rogan always been accurate? No. I mean, when that whole thing, the Coco was going on that we can't talk about and stuff, I mean, the fact checkers destroyed Joe Rogan. And it's part of the reason, as Jake mentioned, Joe Rogan almost lost his spot at Spotify because there was so much misinformation coming from his show about the Coco. But that goes to tell you, in my opinion, I think that's part of his influence.
Yeah.
When you have people calling him out, hey, you were wrong about that. If nobody cared and nobody listened, nobody would be calling him out.
Exactly. I just think if you're Joe Rogan, what you have to be careful of is like passing your opinion off as fact. Like, I think that ultimately is what got him in trouble with the thing that we can't talk about, the Coco stuff. You know, like, you can't just say like, oh, well, I'm going to take this because it has better, you know, benefits than a government approved, you know, thing that we can't talk about. Like, I don't like, that's where I think you get in trouble, because that's your opinion, not necessarily fact based on numbers. And also, because it affects you more positively doesn't mean it's going to affect Joe Schmo more positively. And then when Joe Schmo does what you did and has adverse effects, he's going to come back and say you're liable. And that's the problem. And that's why I think Joe Rogan wants to avoid having Donnie on his show, because things tend to go sideways when Donald Trump does interviews. So that's ultimately the issue.
Yeah. And I think the hard part is that Donnie is very controversial. But this is, I mean, we were watching a show the other night on Vice about the 90s.
Yeah.
And, you know, you had late night talk show battles, and Arsenio Hall put on Louis Farrakhan back in the days, and it absolutely destroyed his show and wrecked his reputation in the black community. Whereas today, Louis Farrakhan, is he any more controversial than our former president? Is he any more controversial than our current congresswoman from Georgia? Probably not. You know, like I think we're in an age, though, where podcasts are dominating.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that is really important to understand is that radio is going away. And one of the things I'd love to see in the comments is, how much does a podcast or a radio host influence your buying decision? How much does a podcast or a radio host influence your voting decision? Because I think I could make a pretty strong argument that it is significant. And one of the things yesterday, we touched on the tragedy in Highland Park. We got more comments about that yesterday on this show than we did about basketball, by far.
Yeah.
And I cannot tell you how many people said, you guys are the best. Thanks for having an honest conversation about it. Or the other side and the other half were like, I'll never be back. I unsubscribed. We probably lost 10 or 15 subscribers yesterday because we talked about what happened in Highland Park.
Yeah.
And frankly, I'm okay with that. And I understand on a show like ours, we don't do 10 million downloads a day. We don't. That's why we value every one of our listeners so much. It's why we put your comments on our show. It's why we interact with you on Twitter. It's why we do things like give away PS5s and don't ship them out, Jake.
Facts.
It's why we... Anyway, the point is, it's why we give away video game consoles and T-shirts and stuff like that.
Right.
That's why we do that.
I think the people, though, who are listening to podcasts, they're not going there for someone to influence them politically. That is all over. You can go CNN, MSN. There is like there is an outlet for political influence everywhere. I think people who are listening to podcasts and who are going to the internet to get content are going there for an escape. Mm-hmm. People listen to...
Oh, no doubt about it.
You know, crime, lifestyle, comedy.
Monty on BYU.
But, you know, I think there might be a small percentage that is, you know, that they're looking for that influence piece. But overall, I think that people are going for an escape. And that's why it's hard. We had the one commenter who said, come on, I come here to get away from that. But I do think... We're not trying to tell you who to vote for. I think that what we want to talk about is a social issue that is super important. So
yeah,
anyways.
but I look at what Jameson sent me on Twitter. Jameson said, I listen to you guys every day. I'm only taking ashwagandha because you guys told me to, and man, it makes a difference. But I only bought it through your Amazon link because you guys told me to. Maybe that makes me stupid or a sheep, but I did what you asked me to do, and I actually do a lot of things you guys do, including smoke chicken wings instead of fry them now.
Let's go.
But that is, you know what, Jameson? I think that's the perfect example where you see that on a regular basis. Like we share affiliate links, which you can find in our descriptions below. We talk to you guys about what we put on our smoker, why we smoke versus barbecue. Like, that's what makes the world go round. The problem, I think, is that you have to have trust in a relationship with the people who listen to your show.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we do not talk about politics on a regular basis is because I don't think, A, it's what you guys are here for, but B, I just think it does not... I don't think it serves the greater good to have political battles on a daily basis. Hey, vote for this guy, don't vote for that guy. Or like, I just don't. When we do that once every couple of weeks, there's a reason. Like, it's Highland Park. It's very near and dear to me.
We must have a responsibility to talk about it when it's on that level.
Yeah,
I think it's really important. During election season, I think it's really important to talk about that.
Yeah.
In the middle of summer, when we're trying to figure out who the Jazz are going to trade for, there's not a whole lot of need to talk about politics on this show.
Yeah.
So let me get some of your comments in here. Fat Jesus says, you complete me.
Oh.
Wow.
There you go. Taryn Powell says, just don't get political. I want sports. Well, I that's the hard part. That's the hard part. You know, like that.
But here's the thing. We give you sports for probably 90 minutes a day, every single day.
At a minimum, yeah.
And I think that I think that there's a balance. Like, the Highland Park thing was not really related to sports, but there are a lot of these issues, and I'm not going to run down the list, but I think we can all agree, like, there are a lot of issues that are directly intertwined with sports, but they're also political.
But I can tell you, I listen to a lot of sports content during the day. Like listening to The Score yesterday in Chicago, of course they were talking about Highland Park. Listening to ESPN radio yesterday, they were talking about Highland Park.
Dude, it was on Sports Center, man.
I was listening to ESPN 700 talking about Highland Park. I was listening to 710 ESPN LA talking about Highland Park. Like, there are just certain topics that no matter where you are, and gun violence is one of those, when you have a situation where it's the 4th of July.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be running from some nut job. We're supposed to be enjoying a parade.
We're supposed to be talking about barbecues versus smokers and brats.
Yeah, we're not supposed to be talking about mass shootings. So there are some topics that are gravitational like that. But I think if you listen to this show on a regular basis, we generally don't do. We do far more. Hey, what's your favorite food? Like Oreo versus chocolate chip.
Yeah,
like that's what our non-sports generally is. But I think, and to the point here, I do think that podcasts have taken over.
Yeah.
I think that when you look at it, and in the comments section, where do you guys listen to us? Because I cannot tell you how many people tweet and comment, hey, I listen to you when I'm driving to work. Like, podcasts have replaced the radio station.
And I think one of the important things is consistency, though, too. Like, I think a lot of people, I think some of our success is that, we're here, like, literally every day. And I think it's different. Like, the other side of that is, hey, when you put out a podcast once a week, maybe you build up that desire and that thirst. But I think for the folks that listen to us on the way to work, I think that's part of the great thing. Because I know for me, I don't listen to a ton of radio, and the few that I do listen to is because they do it more consistently.
Yeah, and Gabe Ledley makes a great point about Joe Rogan's show, and I listen to Joe probably a couple times a week. It gets a little thick for me with, like, I'm not a big conspiracy theory guy at all.
Right.
And I feel like he kind of wades into that. But Gabe says the magic of Rogan's pod is the long-form conversations with interesting people that explore interesting ideas, concepts, topics more fully than other soundbite-driven media forms.
Right.
He says, I can't see DT having a focused, thoughtful conversation in that format, so doesn't really fit what Rogan's model is. I agree. I can't see our former president having a long-form, thoughtful, thorough conversation because he doesn't.
That's not how he operates.
That's not how he is. He is there to get his message out, and how dare you question him?
Yeah.
So that's why so many one-on-one interviews with him, whether it's conservative or liberal media, tend to be combative because that's just not how he he talks. So I agree with that. Cam Harrison says, I enjoy the Monty Show better than radio. Good morning. Shout out to Mo Bamba. Thanks, Cam. Appreciate that. Tanner says, honestly, podcast radios don't influence me on who I vote for. My mentality is the people you're listening to don't have to influence you if you want them to. Well, I mean, they will only if you do. You know, like, I mean, if you want influence or you want to be influenced by people, you know, I mean, to me, that's what that's about. Let's see. Kurt Meyer says, I get my news and listening, viewing off the net. And no, I did quit you even though I got fried yesterday. And no, I didn't quit you even though I got fried yesterday. Well, but see, that's one of the things I think is great about our show. And one of the things I truly enjoy about this show is you can show up in our comment section and say anything you want.
Yeah.
But you're not getting a free pass from everybody else in the comment section.
Yeah, I've been immunized.
Because you know what? I mean, when we get into topics, if you're going to say something crazy or something that is, you know, left of center, I think people are going to get after you in our comments.
Congratulations.
But you know, like I think that is something that is, you know, that is something that's very close. Terrence says there is far too much politics in sports, but here's the thing.
Yes.
Politics and sports are the exact same thing. Politics and sports are the two most competitive mediums in the world.
Yep.
And you have, and sadly, you have testosterone-filled rage in both sports and politics because they're both male-dominated genres. So I think they run very close to each other.
Well, and like Wimbledon's going on. You look at the conversation last year was, is Djokovic even going to be able to play? Now that's not a conversation this year.
Totally agree. Eric C. says, just shut up and dribble, Monty. Love when politics comes up in the Colt.
Right.
Exactly. Brett Robbins says, shut up and dribble. Yes.
Precisely.
Hey, Mrs. Tanner says, hey, Mrs. Monty, any updates on the RSL podcast?
Dude, people want it.
Hey, guys.
People want it. Ruff's Official says, it's amazing how many uneducated experts there are. There are a lot.
That's a lot.
There are a lot, and that's one of the things, and we talk about this all the time, Mrs. Monty, that you can't just take things at face value anymore because there's no minimum standard for education. Anybody can do a podcast. Anybody can do a podcast.
Literally anyone.
Yeah, but there's no minimum standard for, you know, editorial concepts. There's no, and I think one of the things that we pride ourselves on is we don't just talk about something. We don't just throw it out. Generally, we're educated. But our advantage is we've all worked in media. We've all had ethics training. We've all had, you know, editorial bars that we had to live up to.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's hard to find, frankly.
Yeah.
It is. We don't teach people that. The other problem is we don't teach people how to think critically and value critical thinking. People love to say, I researched this. That does not mean that you weighed whether or not what you found was actually true.
No.
You just went down a rabbit hole and found some things that aligned with what your thought was. So, you know, I think that's one of the challenges. We really do try to look at what is the truth.
Yep, I agree. Taryn Powell says, I agree the most important matters, common sense matters. I'm here for the Jazz. I just lean right, but I am from another country, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
I mean, where you're from doesn't necessarily matter. Jeff Healy says, stop the politics. That makes your show suck.
Oh, well,
that might be
Jeff.
your opinion, but I think that, you know, unfortunately for you or not, maybe, you know, that doesn't mean, you know, that we're not going to talk about key issues. So, you know, I think you just have to understand that's part of it.
Yeah.
Hey, Tanner, we're going to be at RSL this weekend. Who else
on Friday night, I think.
Saturday night. I think
is it Saturday night? I thought it was the 8th. I think it's Friday night. Isn't it Colorado?
Yeah. I thought it was the night. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's
one
the
of
8th.
those nights.
Who's going to the
game?
RSL match? It's not a game, it's a match.
A match.
Yeah, get your nomenclature right,
yeah,
please.
Mrs. Monty, can you please get your nomenclature right? And, you know, it is what it is. Yeah, we'll be at the RSL match this weekend. I do think it is against Colorado, which would be great.
It is against Colorado.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. So it's all good. Hey, we're out of time. Thank you so much for all the comments today. If you're here right now, please give us a thumbs up and a like. It really does help the show grow. Click that thumbs up button below. Shop our affiliate links from Ashwagandha to our protein bars, Rockstar, you name it, it's all there. Don't forget, Amazon Prime Days coming up. We're going to have to get into that next week, Amazon Prime Days. Next week, we're going to have to talk about what you buy from Amazon. Hopefully, a better showing from the Jazz tonight. We'll have Jazz Summer League reaction tomorrow. Until then, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.